What's up, guys? You're watching 2-Bit Geek, and it's time for my picks for Week 8 of DC's New 52. So this week is going to be a little different. Aside from Justice League, I actually missed the rest of these titles the first round, so I haven't yet had a chance to review Batman, Nightwing, or Red Hood for issue number 1. So I'm going to briefly go over the issue number 1 before I go into the number 2 of each issue. But starting out with Justice League number 2, this is a pretty solid title so far, not really near the top of my list yet. But with Jeff Johns and Jim Lee on it, you know it's going to be pretty decent, and it is. I like how Jeff Johns is introducing the characters just a little bit at a time rather than, throwing everybody in the team at us in the first issue. So if you don't want to know who's revealed in this issue, you might want to put it on mute for the next 30 seconds or so. But obviously, if you read the first issue, this issue does introduce Superman, but also the Flash appears in this issue. And it's neat to see how the characters interact. It's obvious that there's some history to it. I mean, we all know the real history from before the relaunch. But within the title itself, you can tell that some of the characters have met each other before and have a relationship, while a lot of the other ones don't. So it's kind of neat to see that play out as their first meeting in this new 52. And I think Jeff Johns is doing a solid job of that so far. On the art side, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you like Jim Lee's art, you'll probably like this. If you don't like Jim Lee's art, and I know that some of you are out there, you probably won't like it. But for myself, I do like Jim Lee's art, so I like how colorful this one is, because I'm not used to seeing that from Jim Lee. I know his work mostly on Batman, because lately it seems like that's what you see the most of, and it's pretty dark and muted. But since this is not strictly a Batman title, it's the whole team, so you do get a different look for the book, and I think it matches very well. So like I said, not really at the top of my list, but it's a solid title, probably in the top third or so of the titles I've been able to read for the relaunch. So if you like a team book, or if you just want to see the Justice League origin for the new 52, I'd say go ahead and take a look at this one. So next I'm going to dive right into Batman, and I gotta be honest, with issue number 1 I was pretty disappointed. It has a few good pages at the beginning where there's a nice knockdown and drag out in Arkham Asylum, which is a neat way to see all the villains in kind of one shot. But other than that, the rest of the issue was kind of boring. It introduced everybody, it was very exposition-y, and it didn't really portray Batman like I'm used to seeing him as a detective. One thing that really bothered me is that they used the Bat computer as kind of a device to introduce everybody. This guy used to be Robin, this guy used to be Robin, this guy's Robin now. And I know a lot of the introductory stuff is because they want to make this a jumping on point for new readers. But my problem is that it shows Batman relying on the Bat computer way too much. He's not looking for clues, he's just having the computer lip read for him, run tests for him, eavesdrop for him, and Batman's not really doing anything. However, I will say that on the art side, there's some good stuff here. I like all the different takes on the villains. There's a really nice interior shot of the Batcave that I really liked. And some of it's a little reminiscent of the animated series style, and that's not a bad thing. I really enjoy the look of this one. So I wasn't too impressed with issue number 1. But the good news is that issue number 2 steps it up several notches. I'm really starting to see how Scott Snyder is kind of laying these parallel themes, and he's really bringing them together into a cohesive issue that I think is going to pay off in the long run. He's kind of introducing Gotham as a city, which is a pretty cool thing, because without Gotham, what is Batman? He's also got an overall arc with the main antagonist in mind, but he's not neglecting the day-to-day stuff that Batman has to take care of crime-wise. So it all comes together pretty well, and I'm definitely looking forward to issue number 3. Speaking of the main antagonist, I won't say who it is, but I really did like the design of him. Again, from the art standpoint, he looks very different from anything I've seen. So, like I said, Batman, recommended. Take a look at it. So speaking of Gotham City, I'm just going to go right into Nightwing. I've always liked the idea of Nightwing kind of moving out of the Batcave and into his own gig, but it seems like the first time around they were never really sure what they wanted to do with it. There were all the different costumes, they moved him from Bloodhaven to New York and wherever, and it just seemed like kind of a crapshoot. There are some titles where it seems really cool, especially where you see Nightwing and Batman working together, once they were both kind of adults, but sometimes it was pretty lame, honestly. Now, when I read the solicitations for Nightwing, I was kind of nervous because it talks about him going back to his circus origins. As we all know, Dick Grayson's parents were circus performers, and when they die, he's adopted by Bruce Wayne. But the circus thing is kind of a go-to story for Nightwing, and it's been done before. He started there. I know in Nightwing Year 1, they show him going back there again. So I was a little nervous about that going in, but thinking about it, it kind of makes sense. One of the reasons that Nightwing has never really worked as far as the DC Universe as a whole is he doesn't really have a place. But with the relaunch, he's in Gotham and seems to be working rather well with Batman. There's no angsty conflict there. And they're basically building a status quo for him. And from that standpoint, it makes sense for him to revisit his origins, show us where Nightwing is now in the greater scheme of things, and kind of move on from there. So I'm kind of comfortable with that after a couple of issues. Of Of course, it remains to be seen how great of a starting point this is going to be for Nightwing in the relaunch. So far, I'm enjoying this title. If you like Nightwing, go ahead and check it out. So now we've come to the uncomfortable part of the review where I talk about Red Hood and the Outlaws. And honestly, this is a pretty painful one. I really like Red Hood. I like what Judd Winnick did with Under the Hood and bringing him back as a pretty cool character with a pretty cool design to him. I thought Grant Morrison kind of massacred it after that, but that's a whole other story. But Red Hood and the Outlaws, I really wanted to like it. The Jason Todd parts of it are not bad. If I could excise that from the rest of the issues, that might be a cool thing. But honestly, Arsenal is basically just a bro. It seems like he fell right out of a frat house. And I missed the whole boat on issue number 1. And the way they treat Starfire is honestly pretty bad. She's basically just a mannequin. She's there to pose. She's already slept with both of the main characters in the book. She doesn't seem to care about sleeping with people, have any emotions about it. So basically a sex robot, which is pretty bad considering that DC is already in hot water with the whole gender equality and diversity issue. So I'm pretty surprised at the way they're treating this character, and that's really all there is to talk about with this title. The art is decent, but with the story being the way that it is, what's the point? It's unfortunate. I really wanted to like Red Hood and the Outlaws, but I'm giving it the axe. I didn't want to judge it before 2 issues, but I'm just done. So that's my take on this week. As always, please feel encouraged to leave your comment below, and thank you again for those of you who are subscribing to my channel. I do appreciate that. For the rest of you, subscribe button. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.